Welcome back to Global Insights, the show where we turn complex economic headlines into understandable human stories. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're diving deep into a topic that serves as a cautionary tale for the entire global economy: the irreversible hyperinflation crisis in Venezuela, driven by the explosion of the parallel dollar. When we talk about money losing value, we often think of a gradual decline. But imagine your life savings turning to ash in a matter of days. That's the reality we're exploring. And joining me to unpack this monumental case study is Dr. Ben Carter. Ben is an economist and financial analyst known for translating complex financial concepts into practical, actionable insights. Ben, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Alex. It's a crucial conversation, and I appreciate the chance to look beyond the statistics and really focus on the human and structural elements of this collapse.
So, Ben, the document frames this entire situation as more than just a market caprice. It calls the parallel dollar the most visible manifestation of an economic collapse. Just to set the stage, why does this topic matter so much right now, especially for our listeners who might be outside of Latin America?
That's a great question, because the Venezuelan experience is a masterclass in what happens when fundamental economic laws are ignored. It's not just a story about Venezuela, it's a global lesson. Any emerging market, or frankly, any country that struggles with fiscal discipline, could potentially face similar symptoms. It shows the danger of monetizing the fiscal deficit, the fancy term for printing money to pay the bills. For our listeners, understanding this crisis is the best defense against similar instability in their own financial lives.
That's a powerful point. Let's start at the beginning. The document pinpoints the start of the problem not in a time of scarcity, but in a time of abundance. During the era of Saudi Venezuela, how did the introduction of exchange controls like cadavi during a period of high oil prices become a silent time bomb?
Right, it's counterintuitive. In the early 2000s, Venezuela was swimming in petrodollars. Oil prices were high, so they had plenty of foreign currency. The control system, established in 2003, wasn't originally about scarcity. It was a desperate attempt to stop capital flight due to political instability. But the problem was, cadavi, the Currency Administration Commission, became a monopolistic gatekeeper. They set an official exchange rate that was massively subsidized. Think of the analogy the document uses: selling bread for 10 cents when it costs $1 to make. It created what economists call arbitrage. Everyone wanted that cheap, subsidized dollar, not necessarily for productive use, but for the subsidy value itself.
Exactly. That artificial difference created an irresistible incentive for corruption. I've read estimates that hundreds of billions of dollars were potentially diverted through import overbilling just to access those cheap dollars.
That's the structural damage. If you're a favored importer, you get dollars at 10 cents. You use those dollars to buy real goods, or you just sell them on the black market for what they're really worth, which could be 50 or 100 times the official rate. Meanwhile, the average citizen, the small business owner, the traveler, they weren't able to access this official market. They were forced to the parallel market. And that parallel market, Alex, was dictated by two things: real supply-demand and the overwhelming factor of confidence.
Right, so the parallel market wasn't some fringe activity, it was the only functional market for anyone outside the privileged system. But the real explosion didn't happen right away. The document marks 2013 to 2016 as the point of no return. What were the key events in that period that triggered the irreversible slide into hyperinflation?
The year 2013 was the inflection point of confidence. After Chavez's death, the political spending continued, the massive social programs, the inefficient public investment, but the national checkbook was getting seriously low. The government tried to introduce new, complex exchange systems, but all they did was signal, we don't have enough dollars to meet our promises.
The confidence was already eroding.
Precisely. And then 2014 hit. The price of oil, which had been the country's life support for a decade, plummeted from over $100 a barrel to below $50.
That's when the fuel for the subsidized system ran out.
It ran out entirely. With the oil revenue gone, the state had nothing to replenish its reserves, so they had to drastically cut dollar allocations. But here's the critical, catastrophic decision. The government didn't cut spending. Instead, they told the central bank, just print the money. So we had a classic scenario, fewer dollars coming in, but exponentially more bolivars being printed to cover the fiscal deficit. The Cucuta rate, the unofficial rate generated on the border, suddenly became the only reference point. It reflected the real scarcity and the total, complete loss of confidence in the local currency.
That explains the symptom, but you've identified three fundamental theoretical causes of hyperinflation. Let's break those down. The first, and I think most important one, is the financing of the deficit with unbacked money.
This is the academic consensus, and it's the core of the problem. If a government spends more than it takes in, a deficit, and can't borrow money because its debt is unpayable, the only tool left is the printing press. Think of the central bank as a plumbing system. When the government turns on the printing machine, it floods the system with water, bolivars, but the flow of goods and services, the actual production of the country, is stagnant. Too much money chasing too few goods. The only thing that climbs rapidly is the price of goods and the price of the ultimate safe haven currency, the dollar. We saw the monetary base sometimes triple in a single month. That destroys a currency faster than anything else.
It's monetary fire. And the second factor makes the fire even hotter, the collapse of national production and scarcity.
Absolutely. Hyperinflation is always a monetary phenomenon, but its intensity is multiplied by scarcity. Due to expropriations, price controls, and the difficulty of getting reliable dollars, the national productive apparatus was decimated. An importer needs dollars for raw materials. If they only dollars they can find are on the volatile parallel market, they have to make a choice. Stop importing altogether, creating scarcity, or, and this is key, they set their future selling price based on what they think the parallel dollar will cost tomorrow.
So the pricing not based on today's cost, but tomorrow's potential replacement cost. That accelerates the inflation spiral.
Right, it's anticipatory pricing. The scarcity drives prices up, and the money printing pushes them even faster. Price controls just meant products disappeared because no one sells at a guaranteed loss.
And finally, the third factor, the one that makes this a human tragedy, the profound crisis of confidence.
This is the pillar of it's the pillar of psychology. Money needs to be three things: a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. When people lose confidence that the bolívar will hold its value until tomorrow, it stops being a store of value. It becomes a liability. People ran towards anything that preserved value: dollars, gold, or even non-perishable food. The money was burning in their hands. They spent bolivars the moment they received them. This increase in the velocity of money circulated the currency faster and accelerated the inflation further. This flight from the currency is what sealed the bolivar's fate, leading to the de facto dollarization we see today.
So the parallel dollar didn't just become a currency, it became the only trusted unit of account. Then shifting gears to the practical takeaway. What survival strategies and financial lessons does this crisis offer to people living in any volatile economy?
The biggest lesson is extreme diversification. In a hyperinflationary environment, the first rule is to minimize your holdings of local currency. The Venezuelan populace became experts in this out of necessity. Practical advice: first, convert to hard currency, dollars or euros, immediately. That's the most direct way to preserve purchasing power. Second, look at durable assets. These are things people will always need: tools, spare parts, or if you can afford it, property. And finally, people became small product banks. They'd buy high-demand, non-perishable goods they knew they could sell later at a price that would cover inflation.
It's fascinating how the population forced the change. The government unofficially relaxed controls, allowing dollar transactions. This wasn't a policy, it was a survival response.
Exactly. It was a concession the state had to make to prevent total commercial collapse. While the bolívar still exists, the massive adoption of the dollar has slowed the pace of inflation, moving it from hyperinflation to just very high inflation. The lesson here is that public confidence is more powerful than any government decree. When people overwhelmingly choose a safe haven currency, it becomes the de facto standard.
That creates the stark social impact the document mentions.
It's heartbreaking. You have the dollar Venezuela, people receiving remittances or working in the dollarized private sector who can maintain their power, and the bolívar Venezuela,